Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm James.
And we're talking about Amazing Race Australia.
I cannot believe it's been 20 legs. I know we probably reiterate this every week, just how long this has
Right.
been drawn out, but 20
hmm
legs. And on a different note, love the flannel vibe we got going on. Not planned.
You guys, look at this. We are so in sync. These were these were some good episodes. A lot happened, a lot to talk about. So let's dive right in. We've got 18, 19, and 20. Gets us down to our final four. This is so exciting, you guys. This first episode, though, episode 18, not gonna lie, soup's emotional.
Tugged on the heartstrings. It was, yeah.
Really, really, really dead. We are driving to Ross, still in Tasmania, and we've got to do a salvage and a sabotage here. This salvage is ridiculous. The
It's so silly.
Cowboys have to finish half their task.
Yeah.
This is a straight up advantage.
Oh, it's like a better advantage than leaving first on the leg. Like I thought it was a
Yeah.
little ridiculous. Like as the seasons progressed, I mean, I know at first I was like so gun ho about the sabotage and salvage, and then obviously in the middle, I was more like, oh, it needs some fine tuning. Now I just don't like it as much as I thought I would. I just think, especially when there's other non-elimination legs sprinkled in, as we saw over the last couple of weeks with how many there have been, even if you're last on a non-elimination leg, you don't get penalized at all. Like it's
Right.
just, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a fan
I just
anymore.
needed some consistency. It didn't work this season. They need to fine tune it. This
Yep.
salvage is such a great advantage. Any team would want it. I can't imagine why the second to last or last team should deserve this advantage. But at least this sabotage, being Chris and Alicia's third sabotage, is not that bad. We got to
It's
carry
not, but like,
balloons.
it's not like I think watching it's like so ridiculous. But then when you think about the idea of running the leg,
Mhm.
doing everything that they did, having to worry about not popping it, like it's just an added layer to your day that the other teams had. I don't think it's necessarily a sabotage, but it's definitely an annoyance.
Yeah. It's definitely an annoyance. I mean, all of these even those kangaroos, that's an annoyance, but is it going to really slow me down in the race? I mean, I don't think so. All right. So we're headed off to this first task, just like a real solid endurance task here that we've got to do. We're going to basically kind of reenact building this bridge. We're carrying these big, heavy blocks over across the bridge to this park. We're shackled together. And we hear on the way there, we get a little tidbit, a little sound bite that the siblings say the Sikhs are their strongest alliance members, alluding to this four, but the Sikhs is really who the siblings feel comfortable with.
It's like layers of an onion. There's always going to
Mhm.
be more to what you think, and especially a large alliance like those four teams.
Mhm. We are shackled together. We're carrying 10 blocks. MJ and Chelsea, our footies, the Sikhs, and the siblings are our first three teams to arrive here. Alicia, in her little toothpick arms and toothpick legs, is very much struggling through this task, but everyone else is sort of just, I mean, everyone's powering through it, but she's definitely struggling the most. Our footies are able to get out first, then the Sikhs, and that leaves us with Chris and Alicia, sort of the last team here, pulling up the
And
rear.
Rhonda, what's the other balloon? Rhonda and
Yeah, what
forgot
was
the
it
name.
like? Larry, maybe?
Something like that. But they had to
Yeah.
worry about their two other teammates. Like, ugh.
So we're going to head over to this roadblock, which was fascinating because there's actually real life Tasmanian devils here. James, I just want to play with the Tasmanian devils.
Like they're adorable when you see just like a still
Right?
of them or like B-roll that they put into the clip. But then when they were going after their little treat there, they're ravenous and they're little devils, like devils
Yes.
for a reason.
Accurate. Accurate name there. we are first come first serve at this roadblock. So we see a little bit of a traffic jam here. The footies are ahead, so they're the first ones to get stuck in this traffic. It actually helped that the Sikhs and the siblings were a little bit further back, able to see that the traffic was backing up and take an earlier exit. So the Sikhs get to the roadblock first. Again, this is first come, first serve. So they're there first. They get to go in. The other teams now have to start waiting. The siblings come in second. The footies, by the time they get out of traffic and arrive at this roadblock, realize that they are now third. This comes into play. This is kind of a big deal.
Puts them at a little disadvantage.
Yeah. So now they're waiting in line as the teams are going through. No one's having any issues with this. Most of them actually are enjoying the little Tasmanian devils following them around this little path, get their clue.
It was like a simple, straightforward, to the point type task, but it more so I think meant to like break up the teams with it being a first come, first serve task.
But it actually ends up helping. So like Chris and Alicia are falling so far behind with this carrying the block thing. They feel like they're maybe 45 minutes behind or something like that, I think is what they say. But by the time they arrive at this roadblock, the cowboys are still there doing it, so they can't go in anyway. So they basically caught up. Helpful for them. Now we go to a detour, James. Now we get a detour, and it says small cows, big cheese, and warning, U-turn ahead.
That infamous U-turn.
With the odd rule here in Australia that the first team is the one that has to use it. But they all seem on board with it. It seems like everyone's up for being the first team and using it from what we've seen. So our Sikhs
I hate that rule. I just don't like it. It defeats the purpose of the U-turn.
It's odd.
Like if someone doesn't want to use it, then don't let them use it. Like don't force
have to.
Use it. Yeah.
Right. We're going to either search some cows or we're going to carry cheese up an insane hill and get a certain weight, meaning you're probably going to have to go up and down this hill a couple times, and the Sikhs are there first. So they're cutting the cheese first, run up to weigh it, running back down, got to go up the hill again. The footies, however, they're going to go over to the cows first. So they're the first team over there, coming in second here. And then the siblings show up to the cheese. Now we see the Sikhs. They have had to go up and down a couple times. They've figured it out. They dialed it in, got the right weight with their cheese. And on their way down the hill, James, just literally pass their cheese off to Jake and skye-blue so that they can get it.
Right. So, I mean, again, the parallels between Australia season 5 and season 32 are uncanny. But I will say, I think as a viewer, now being removed and not having participated on this race, I get the frustration. I get why it would be hard to see this type of play out, although I still think it's a little different than the hung sauerkraut situation, just by a little bit, not by much, but it's a little different. Like you're literally doing a full-on task for someone, whereas like even if you had the word sauerkraut, you still had to make your way down the side of the building. Like you couldn't just give over the word sauerkraut and bypass, which is pretty much the body of the task, which was to walk down the side of the building and locate the letters. For this particular situation, they full on got judged. Their cheese was accurate, and they just handed it over to another team. Again, to me, skye-blue and Jake didn't really do the task at all, if that's the case. So that was frustrating to see how that played out. But then when you put yourself in a racer's shoes on this particular situation, you can't fault skye-blue and Jake for saying, hell yeah, give me your cheese.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Helps them stay ahead of the pack. And you also can't fault the Super Seeks for establishing that relationship even further in a race situation. So it's like, I personally didn't like it. I would have never done that.
Yeah.
But again, we've seen this dynamic, but especially between these two teams very early on when they were a green island or whatever. And I always bring this point up. skye-blue dove into the water and retrieved that bottle for the Super Seeks when they couldn't do it themselves. So I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
With that little tidbit of information that they dove down into the water and helped the Sikhs, then it is kind of nice that the Sikhs repaid them in some way. But I can't even imagine being in the mindset where I would hand over the work that I did. I understand helping a little bit. I would have even understood if they were like, we got it. Follow us. And skye-blue and Jake ran back down the hill with them. They put the cheese down on the table so that they could see exactly what it was. Like, that's kind of guiding and helping and being like, it was these blocks.
It's sharing your tips and tricks and like what worked for you to hopefully benefit a team, especially a team you're aligned with. But in this situation, you literally did the task for another team, which
I don't even. I can't imagine even thinking about it.
The racer. Like, it doesn't fall on the racers to. I think in that point, that challenge was poorly designed. If that's the point I'm trying to make, is that like that was a production thing for sure. Like when the Super Seeks had their cheese weighed out, the judge should have kept the cheese.
Yeah, agree, Casey.
Any cheese being passed off.
Yeah.
So good. Yes, Casey. Yes, I see you.
Yeah, the judge should have kept the cheese, or a producer should have like taken it off somewhere. That shouldn't have been an option. But if it's produced that way, of course they're allowed to do it. I just can't believe
for outsmarting the challenge.
Yeah, can't
it's
believe
not the
it
racer's job. Yeah.
Yeah. James, I hear myself. Are your AirPods working?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Why do I hear myself? Maybe it's just me.
Oh, weird.
I was. What? Do you still hear me? Is it the same? Now you hear me?
Now I hear you. Yeah, that's so weird.
I don't know. I just heard myself. Okay. Now I'm just hearing myself. I'm hearing things, guys. All right. Well, that's our first little bit of controversy here, but it does get the Sikhs out first. So the Sikhs are now going to decide who they should U-turn. And I have to say, this is the right strategy.
It was the right move for them in particular. Granted, like, yeah, it was.
Yeah, they talked through, Chris and Alicia are back in the pack. We're not working with them. They laid out who they were working with, so don't want to, sabotage them or U-turn them. I should use the right phrase. But ultimately, MJ and Chelsea are the toughest team, and they've had just a little bit of bad luck here that pushes them not at the front of the pack, pushes them back a little bit. And so you take the chance to U-turn them if you have it. And that is unfortunately what
especially like
here.
This late into the race. I think MJ and Chelsea are like the team that would give anyone in that alliance a run for their money. Granted, I think Chris and Alicia too, because there have been times where Chris and Alicia have been placed top 3 and some of the alliance not in it. So but yeah, I think it was the right move, and it made sense with them being a stowaway team. Like, you're not really upsetting a lot of the other teams at that point. So it was a good move on the Super Seeks.
It was, as disappointing as it was to watch, it was a very good move. So we actually see MJ and Chelsea struggling over at the cows. They're looking through all the pins and trying to find this like black dot on the cows. The cowboys actually come in. Oh, they're just feeling themselves. They're at home. They're around cows. They're just loving it. And they only have to find like 2 cows because they get to do half of everything. So they actually are able to pass MJ and Chelsea at this point. So when the footies finally get out, they realize that they have been U-turned. They get it. They understand it. They said, we would have done it too. It's not rocket science. And then at one point, I think it was it MJ who got frustrated and was like, take another turn. And Chelsea was like, no, I know where I'm going. Calm your farm. And I was like, oh my God, calm your farm. I'm going to say calm your farm from now on. But I have to have the accent because it rhymes when she says it. She's like, calm
Put it
your
on a
farm.
t-shirt. I put on a t-shirt with like a little cheese wheel, maybe a cow.
Yes. Yes. They should do it. Put it on their shirts. I will buy it. It's merch for them. Calm your farm. Okay. So now the footies have to go to the cheese thing. No one's there to help them. They got to figure it out themselves. Chris and Alicia are at the cows, going through the cows, figuring that out. And both teams seem to kind of leave around the same time, but the Chiron under Chris and Alicia does say that they are the last team at this point.
Right.
So we do see teams arriving at the pit stop. Obviously, our Sikhs have been first for most of the day. Jazz and Anurag come in first. We've got Brennan and Jackson who were able to come in second because they didn't have to do anything on this leg. Half the tasks. And then skye-blue and Jake were able to come in third because they were given the answer. And then this editing was some of the most fantastic editing I've ever seen. We really were on the journey here. We see Chris and Alicia have been the last team, but we see the footies ask for directions. Someone's like, follow me. So they do. Then they realize they have to turn around and go another way. At one point, Chris and Alicia pull up behind MJ and Chelsea, and they're like, oh, wait, there they are. But then, I don't know, they got split up because they both arrive at the pit stop not realizing where they are in the pack, like genuinely on this journey with them.
Yeah, the thing was great.
Chris and Alicia show up on the mat.
And it really wasn't that far behind. And because like I think the gut-wrenching part was like Chris and Alicia on the pit stop. MJ and Chelsea are running across that bridge. Chris and Alicia are now stepping off the pit stop with Bo, and Chelsea stopped MJ before like they even get off the bridge and lets her know like, hey, we're not, we're last, essentially. And like just to see the fact that she stopped her teammate and like helped her like kind of gather herself before, I like loved that moment. It was so raw. And I think it shows a lot about their friendship and like who they are as a team. And I don't know, I really loved that moment.
Oh, it was so beautiful. It was so, they saw Chris and Alicia, it hits them. We're the last team. They take a moment to collect themselves because obviously they're upset. They're such competitors. Like they don't lose. They don't like to lose. What? This is awful. And then, talking about their relationship and their friendship and running the race together and the highlights of their moments. Oh, the feels. So good.
And like, again, as much as I hate the stowaway twist, they were an incredible team. I thought that they brought a lot of value to this season. I loved, oh my God.
Ellen, breaking news. Makes me even happier.
I literally just kind of got goosebumps.
Right? Oh my God.
And maybe a little emotional. Like, this is
right? We're both like, yes!
I love that. And like, it's so obvious, like, how amazing they are together and like how much they support each other. And like, I don't know. Wow. That like kind of hit me just a little bit.
I mean, like, I wonder why they weren't dating before, but I'm so glad that they are now.
I'm so happy for them.
Yes. Yay. Thank you for that info. That was very exciting. Oh my God.
Okay, let me collect myself for a second.
Yay. We gotta contact them. We gotta track them down. Send them best wishes and get them on the show.
I love that. I love that. Oh, I love that for them.
Right? Yes. James, take a minute.
It's so
We
beautiful.
love
I
it.
love it.
Yeah. So yes, like we said, so sad to see them go, but we understand, like one little stumble gives you the opportunity to U-turn them. That was the right choice. And boo, they're out of here. So let's move on to episode 19, where we're now flying to Sydney and then taking a train to Newcastle, but we're going to call it Newey because that's what we do in Australia.
That's the lingo, Nui.
Yep. This first thing that they have to do with the tap dogs gave me life. Oh my gosh. Like blue collar steel workers tap dancing with like the
Yep.
steel thing behind. All yes to all
Yeah.
of it. All of it.
Yeah.
Love it.
It was visually a lot of fun, and
Mhm.
yeah, I liked I think it was one of the cowboys that like made like some reference or a joke about it being like a Magic Mike show, but I was like, this is like
Yes.
Thunder Down Under. Like this is
Yeah.
probably the Thunder Down Under show that you're gonna get when you go to Vegas. So
Yes, but
I
it's
love
also
it.
flash dance for those of us who know flash dance, but y'all are young, so I get it. Magic Mike's okay too. All right, so we got to learn a tap routine, and we know we've got a couple dancers, just really one, and then a couple not good dancers here, and then some people here in the middle. So the Sikhs are here first, then Chris and Alicia right behind, and Alicia just loves it when she gets to dance here. We've got the siblings, then the girls and the cowboys. They're coming in last because their taxis are following each other, but not in the right direction. So they get lost here.
Messy taxis, messy taxis.
Mm-hmm.
Not a great way to start your leg.
No, but Chris and Alicia are going to kill it right away. First attempt. I love watching Alicia get to do dance stuff because she just gets so excited about it. And then our Sikhs have shown us that they're pretty good at a dance thing. Like it's not their strong suit, but they can get it.
Not like lion dragon dancing, but dancing. Not when you have to eat lettuce through
But that's so
not the
complicated.
mouth.
Like which way,
Under the mouth, through the
Under
mouth.
there, I don't know, can't tell. Okay, but then we get this great montage of just horrible dancing, which I really appreciate. Eventually, the siblings are able to get it on their fourth attempt, and then the girls got it on their fifth attempt only because I think the judge kind of gave up and was like, everyone else is left. I'm going to just give it to you. I felt like in this moment.
Yeah.
But we're now going to a sign-up board, and we have Chris and Alicia who were able to sign in first. Then the Sikhs, the Gold Coast girls, were able to sign in third because people don't know how to drive and learn directions.
Yeah, like you I'm curious to know, and maybe we'll get an answer at some point from one of the racers, but why don't they stop as much? Like, why are they not taking that? Like, if you really don't know where you're going, why don't you just stop right away and get those directions? Like, why not take that extra 5 minutes to like really make sure you know where you're going? Because if you get lost, like it could really put you out. I would rather take the risk and ask, or like stop at a hotel and like print directions myself. You just haven't seen a lot of that until they're like, oh, I'm lost. I don't know where we're going. Let's pull over and ask for directions.
Yeah, I also don't know why more people don't have maps. Like there were a couple times that people aren't even looking up directions.
I also saw, I don't know if anyone else noticed this. Jake was holding, I don't know if it was this episode or the episode before, they're all blending together at this point,
Yeah.
right? He's holding a manual that is yellow, red, and yellow, so race colors on the front, and it says driving something on it. So I don't know, like, are they given these like directions when the leg starts? Like, I'm just curious to know what that booklet was that Jake was reading from, because it clearly was a race material with the race flag on the cover.
Look, skye-blue and Jake have gotten lost, I think, on every single leg. They are so bad with directions. It apparently doesn't matter what they're looking at, if it was given to them by the race or what it is. I don't understand their struggle with directions. It's so bad. And here they are just losing spots because they are now signing in fifth place here because they, just taking wrong turns, getting all sorts of lost. But this next thing we're going to do the next day is also hilarious. Hobby horse dressage. We're going to do a pas de deux on a silly little toy horse, and it was hilarious. The cowboys think they're actually doing a horse task and they're so excited. It's not. But it's a second dance task in a row, which is kind of interesting to just do back to back here. But I don't hate it. Chris and Alicia, they're there first and they're going to nail it really quick. The Sikhs are going to do pretty darn fine. Siblings are able to get it on their second try. Cowboys are able to do it on their second time. It takes the girls 3 times. And again, I think the judging is just like, okay, you're the last team. We'll let you go
Right.
at this point.
You know, I've been a huge supporter of Ash and Amanda this entire season. But there was one moment in particular where like I didn't like what Amanda said in this part where she was like, they got 2 dance challenges. This is so not fair. And like she was like upset because Chris and Alicia were excelling. It just took me for like that caught me off because I feel like they've been pretty positive this entire time.
Yeah.
But like that comment seems so out of character to me. And I was just like, oh, why are you saying like it's like that's just how this leg of the race was designed. It's not Chris and Alicia's fault. But I also feel like this entire episode, and I get it from like a narrative standpoint, there's clearly an alliance, the originals, and then there's Chris and Alicia. So I understood why we were literally getting it drilled into our heads. Chris and Alicia were on the outs because almost the entire episode, one team was always saying Chris and Alicia's name. And it kind of became like a little obsessive to me and like so unnecessary. But I'm not going to fault the teams for that. Although I do think there's a little bit of an undertone. I still think that it was just weird. Like I didn't really care for it. It just seemed very odd.
Yeah. I mean, we're to that point where
we've Chris and Alicia.
Yeah, we've got an alliance and we've got one team outside of the alliance. It's so, can be a little awkward and uncomfortable to watch when multiple people are just talking about this one team. But I understand, like, this is what the girls are not good at. The Gold Coast girls are good at everything except dance challenges. So getting 2 of them back to back, I get their frustration. And the team that you're working against is good at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like a letdown in a sense. But like, would you even consider the dressage dancing?
I mean, not really, but it's choreography.
Yeah, it is synchronized. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, took me by surprise. It seemed very out of character at first.
It was, yeah. I mean, absolutely. 90% of what the tasks are that they do, Chris and Alicia struggle a lot and they have to power through. So, like, I'm not going to feel bad for you that you had 2 tasks that were hard for you when Chris and Alicia have 90% of the tasks are hard for them. So, I feel like it's a great balance. I got no complaints.
That's a really good point.
This.
Yeah.
So there.
I like that point. That was a good point.
Okay, we're heading to a detour, pit or paddle. And interestingly enough, we all end up going to pit because they're scared to paddle in wine barrels, which is true because we've seen it done in America. Avoid it if you can. So Chris and Alicia, they are at these olive things first, and we kind of get the narrative that they have worked through and found the best strategy. You're getting the pit out of the olives. If you stand up and like put your body weight, it'll kind of spit it out. But they don't want other people to realize that. We get to a point where all the teams are there. You've got to just get your strategy. You just got to do it. They're going to start to see it, except the Cowboys. They don't need to watch you and do it that way. They'll just keep doing it their way. No big deal.
Yeah. No big deal. It was. It's brilliant. I mean, it's good strategy to like think like that. Like when the Super Sikhs are on their way, and they were like, "We'll just copy Chris and Alicia." But then there's part of me that's like, "God, that's so annoying." Like, that's so annoying.
Yeah.
But when you get there and you see how it's literally like all the teams are on top of each other sharing one long table. Well, like, yeah, it's inevitable. Like, maybe there should have been like everyone should have been sectioned off, and like that's why Chris and Alicia, when they had to do the card stacking thing, intentionally went away from where the other teams were going to be. But then I think as a viewer, maybe I might be in the minority with this opinion, but it's kind of exciting now to see all those teams lined up at that table and they're all doing
Mhm.
and they're all going overtime. Like it was exciting because you didn't know like, oh, was someone going to actually pass Chris and Alicia? Like I enjoyed that like
Right.
that, but also like I don't know, it was just the copying thing. I would have been like, oh,
Yeah.
really?
I mean, that's the bummer of them all being at this one task. You know, if a couple people had gone over to the wine thing, it would have been different. But so here they are. It's great tension, like you said, like because like we can see how many pits are in their thing. We can see who's like kind of picking up the pace. And although Chris and Alicia are able to keep their lead and get out first, we start to see some of the other teams picking it up. And then, Cowboys finally woke up from their nap and we're like, wait a minute, they're standing up? Oh, they're all done. And we still have so much to do. So they eventually get into it. And now we go to another task that I love, a literal needle in a haystack. Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah, I
So
mean, like
good.
obviously, I don't feel like it's a hard challenge, but I don't think it's like as iconic as the US version where like teams literally had to unravel barrels of hay to find a clue. And if one barrel didn't have it, they would have to push another one. And that's why, Lena and Christy were there for like 6 hours. But this unraveling just one, not knowing what you're looking for, that's tough because you don't know how big the needle's going to be. It might be literal, it could be like a small little needle. You never really
Oh,
knew. And that seemed to be the struggle because if you don't have some like a point of reference, you really don't know
yeah.
what your eyes need to look for.
Right.
So yeah, it looked difficult.
I assumed it was going to be like a tiny little silver sewing needle, which would have been so hard to find. Turns out that a large red knitting needle is just as hard to find because these teams really do work at it for a while. Chris and Alicia and our Sikhs are the first two teams to get there. Then our girls and the siblings arrive next. The Sikhs have the most haphazard strategy I've ever seen where they're just throwing hay in the air, which for me, who thinks it's this little silver needle, I thought, oh my God, they've tossed it. They're never going to find it. This is insane. But as we know, this is just basically a luck thing. This
It
can
is
be quick
luck.
or not. So
Yeah.
it turns out that the Gold Coast girls are able to find it first. Then Chris finds it, the siblings, then the Cowboys, and then an hour and a half later, the Sikhs find it. They are
Yeah.
just out of their minds at this point.
Yeah, I mean, even being told like what to look for, like that's kind of when that alliance
Yeah.
comes in handy on the race. They asked Ash
Yeah.
and Amanda as they were running out, like, what does it look like? And I was like, yeah, use your alliance. Like get that information. It's valuable. But even knowing what color it was and potentially the size of that needle, they still struggled to find it in their
Yeah.
hay.
Well, because I think they threw their hay around so much. It had to have been that. I don't
A
know,
little
because everyone
reckless.
else, yeah, seemed to get it. And, they knowing that all the teams were there and then knowing that all the teams have left and you're the last team is, a defeating moment. You are worried you might go home. I am like, no, of course they're safe. We're due for a non-elimination.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid we eliminate back to back. That just does not seem to be the
Right.
way Australia works.
Right.
So I'm not feeling any fear right now whatsoever.
No.
Pit stop, Ashley and Amanda coming in first place. Once again, those girls killing it. Chris and Alicia, second place. Take that. Top two teams
Love
right
it.
there. Skye-blue
Like when
and
you
Jake
think they're
are
down, they're not
third.
out. Chris and
No,
Alicia.
seriously. Skye-blue and Jake are third, and then our Cowboys are able to come in at fourth. They actually arrive with the siblings. The siblings and Cowboys are there at the same time. They step on the mat together, but judging says siblings are third, Cowboys are fourth. And then eventually our fifth place team, Jazz and Anurag, show up, but they are not eliminated.
No. but they're also not penalized for being last, which is, again, I don't get that. Like, it's like, to me, completely defeats the purpose of that entire leg then. Oh, you're last, but you get a free pass. You don't have to worry about anything going into the next leg. You survived. Like, there still should have been like a speed bump element this season for non-elimination legs that don't have sabotage and salvage.
Right. A speed bump would have been nice to see. Okay, guys. Episode 20. Here we go. Gonna finally get it down.
20. Oh my God. Ah.
We're in the Blue Mountains. We're gonna depart in order. Our first roadblock is who looks good in a suit. Oh, and let me just stop here because we talked a little bit about the whole like dancing thing. 2 dance things in a row. This entire leg was intense. These are crazy challenges of like adventure
Very
lifestyle.
Yes.
Yes.
Very
We've
physical, very active, high
up,
adrenaline.
down, water. We've got like it's all of it across the board. I think it's fantastic, but it's going to be hard for everybody. And I just kind of wanted to point out, like, I appreciate the balance here.
Yes. I loved it because it was such a beautiful backdrop too. Like, just everything they did from start to finish this leg, I loved it. And I was like, I cannot wait to see the world again. Like, I'm so excited to travel again.
Yes. I mean, I know Australians are like, get outside of Australia, but I'm loving this whole amazing race in Australia. It's so gorgeous.
Yes.
So this first one, we're trekking through a canyon. We're having to go down through, it's like almost an obstacle course, but it's a natural one. And we've got water in it. And then you end up having to abseil down the waterfall at the end. Insane. Everyone's going to have to just do mind over matter here, especially Alicia, who has to do this one. And girl, she don't like water. There was a point when I was like, this tour guide guy who had to help her through at the end of his shift was like, I need a large beer. Like he worked for his paycheck getting her through this one.
I loved the GoPro footage at one point where it was from the guy that she was like doing the course with. And she's literally like this, like wedged between 2 of the rock walls. And she, like, her face, it was just a funny moment. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this poor thing. Like, she really is hating every second of this. But she's pushing through it. She's pushing through it.
Yep, she did it. She literally thought she was going to die in this challenge, but she did not die. She made it through. The Gold Coast girls are able to just get in and out real quick, power through. The Sikhs, same thing. Siblings, once again, lost. So bad at directions. The siblings are driving around. So they actually are the last team here, pulling up the rear with the Cowboys coming out of this roadblock. Then we're heading to the detour, lunch or launch. Take orders, serve a table, or shoot and catch this chocolate pudding. Okay, this is a book. Of course, I don't know this book reference, but it was cute, looked fun.
The little costumes, the outfits.
Adorable. Our girls are going to go to the lunch first. Our Sikhs are going to get to the launch first. Then the Cowboys show up. Then Chris and Alicia are going to go to the lunch. The girls, I thought this was very smart to taste the food and figure it out.
Brilliant. First off, I mean, just looking at that food, it would be tempting to not eat it. And I feel like that's kind of where it stems from. I feel like at first they were looking at the food and they were kind of like, oh, this looks good or whatever. And then it kind of got their gears going of like, we can taste test. This would actually work in our favor. Let's try this stuff. And I loved that they were able to think like that. And yeah, go girls. I love them.
I saw something online, I guess it was Twitter or something, of like thinking this was unfair, but I honestly thought it was probably part of the challenge. Like, they don't give you any indication of what item is what. No title. You're just looking at it. So I bet eating it was part of the task. I didn't think it was
I mean, if
cheating at
it's
all.
not specified on the actual sheet with the original clue and the route info or the additional info, because whatever's in that clue, those are the
Mhm.
rules you go by. Those are the rules. You don't
Yeah,
stop to ask for clarification. It's verbatim written there for you. And if it doesn't say you cannot try the food, then it's part of the challenge. They were allowed to
right.
do that. And it looked like there was more than enough. So I thought it was brilliant. I
Yeah.
loved.
And then I got worried because I was like, well, Chris and Alicia aren't going to eat this. Like, are they going to be able to figure it out? But it turns out it seemed like they could do it just fine without tasting it. So, not too much of an issue. Over at the launch, the Sikhs are struggling just a little bit. They've got a bit of a learning curve here. But the Cowboys are able to nail it in and out. They move from fourth place to first with this detour, which is really awesome. So then the siblings are the back of the pack with Chris and Alicia at this point, coming out of this detour. Now we're going to go do a double hula hoop performance. This was hilarious to watch. I love the Cowboys showing up first for this. This is not something they're going to excel at. This is going to be weird and hard for them, but they just enjoyed it.
They really did just enjoy it. And I'm like waiting for a GIF of that. Like, has Amazing Races Australia Twitter tweeted out a GIF of them hula
Haven't seen
hooping
it.
together? Because it was gold. Like, it was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. I loved how much they were enjoying it. And that's really what I enjoy watching is when people who are just making the best of it because that was hard. They're like, we see everyone like flinging hula hoops left and right. Multiple of the professionals were getting hit in the head with hula hoops. Like it was a hot mess there for a minute. We see all the teams basically there practicing together. The Cowboys are able to get it on their first attempt. The Gold Coast girls are actually able to do it on their second attempt, which is great. Chris and Alicia get it on their first attempt, Sikhs on their first. But Jake, this is where we start to see a little separation in the teams. Jake is not figuring this out.
Yeah. And I couldn't quite, I maybe I wasn't paying attention enough, but I couldn't quite figure out what the issue was. Like what exactly was it that was causing him to not get it?
Yeah. Not sure if it was some sort of coordination or just remembering the steps. What they didn't make it clear to us. We just kind of see him accidentally hit skye-blue and then she's upset, but I think it wasn't just getting hit. It was all of like, oh my God, we're not
An
getting this.
accumulation. Yeah, especially when you see the other teams passing you. Yeah.
Exactly. So we do see them eventually, like they have to take a moment. He's working on it. She's taking a beat, but they kind of make it seem like, let's just go try. And again, I think the judging this season I think because we've learned they have time limits, that it gets to a point that they're like, the judges are just going to say yes to you. We're just going to
Yeah.
along here. But I do appreciate this skye-blue was like, I'm just going to sell it. You know, she really was like, ha, he messed up. You know, give me that performance. Yeah. Judge is like, okay. So they are able to leave. And now we kind of get like bookend roadblocks here. We get another incredible adventure lifestyle style book roadblock here with the suspension bridge. But it's like not even a bridge. Somebody called it a ladder. And I was like, oh yeah, because the steps are so spaced out. Super high up, super lax. And the other person has to do it.
I would have loved this. It would have been so much fun. It reminds me of like summer camp high ropes course. Granted, I would have literally told myself you're not falling. Like under any circumstance, you will not fall. Because the idea of that is terrifying. But the idea of doing this sounds fun. That makes sense. Like I would love to do it, but I don't want to fall.
No, but you know you're not gonna fall. Like you don't want
Right,
to
but she's like your brain just goes to weird places when it's like
yeah,
doing something that doesn't feel natural to you, and you
right.
just automatically assume I'm gonna die. This
Yeah,
is it. My life is over. I'm gonna fall 2 feet, even though I'm hanging with the rope, but I'm gonna
yeah,
fall to my death.
right. And it was kind of along those lines of watching Jackson was really like the tension watching Jackson. I was like sweating and holding my breath during that. Like Ashley, these girls are just insane. Ashley is figuring it out. She's getting through it, powers through. But by the time Jackson steps up there, he's like, oh, I don't do heights. Nope. Mm-mm. And you can just see him
Mm. Getting
trying
in
to
his head.
yeah, because he's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And
Yep.
Brendan's like, you doing it. You just take that step. Come on, bud. Like, let's go, let's go. And I guess credit to Brendan because he really did get Jackson to eventually like take that step and then take that
So
next step.
maybe I missed this part, but
Mm-hmm.
for the rules, what technically was considered a fall? Did both of your feet have to come off or like go below the actual steps of this suspension little bridge here? Like what was technically classified as a fall? Because it looked like they had a lot of slack with that rope, like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
slack. Could they have crawled on their hands and knees?
Well, they didn't read us those rules, so I don't know about hands.
It just
But
would have
you
been interesting.
Yeah, because you could see like people would lost their footing, but they kept
Hmm.
their body. It seemed like so much core had to be engaged in your upper arm. I was so glad Alicia did not do this one, even though she was terrified of that water. I was like, girl, this worked out for the best.
This would have put her over the edge.
Oh my God.
Literally over the
Over that.
edge.
Her little arms wouldn't have been able to hold herself up. But yeah, like it wasn't until because even though Jackson is like terrified, he does make it across. And same thing with Chris, kind of slow and steady. It's not till Anurag gets up there that we actually see what a fall is. And we actually do see like his legs do fall through it and his butt kind of hits the seat of the bridge ladder. So I guess the other ones, as long as you kind of kept your core upright, that counted.
Yeah, this
So
definitely felt like it took a lot of core strength.
yeah, so this is interesting because we've got Anurag going across and skye-blue and Jake literally on the sidelines going fall. And he does. He falls, and then Jake goes, but Karma's a bee, and he falls. So Anurag gets another chance. I mean, that would have been the time to pass them, Jake and skye-blue. But Anurag is able to go a second time and he gets through it, and Jake does as well. But again, you're the last team. All the other teams have gone through.
Mm.
So our pit stop is Ashley and Amanda once again, number 1. Chris and Alicia, once again, number 2. They're actually able to pass the Cowboys when they're driving. Oh my God, James. This is when I was like, why are people not buying maps? Is because the Cowboys do seem like they're good at pulling over and asking for directions. Not always great directions. But they
Right.
pull over a second time to ask for directions since the first time didn't work out at a petrol station. I called it a petrol station. I don't call it a petrol station. Gas station. And they decide to buy Snickety snacks instead of a map.
Yeah, like I mean, Ash and Amanda really, I feel like, are the only ones that in a previous leg bought that guidebook, which
Mm-hmm.
totally catered to them. Why aren't the other teams doing that? Or if they are, it's not being shown to us. Maybe
Yeah.
was did, but it was just a funnier edit to like make it look like they bought snacks and not a mat. Like who knows? But yeah,
I
what
mean,
was going on with
maybe. But I've never when I'm watching them in the car, they don't open anything. They're not looking at anything. They just go, yeah, I think it's up here. Let's ask, which I appreciate them asking. But like we see the
that? Right.
Gold Coast girls and like Chris and Alicia, they're like unfolding some sort of map. Like they've purchased something. So I just was like, what are you doing here? But turns out it's okay. They still come in third place. They only lost one place, and to them it was worth
Chris
it.
and Alicia pass you. That's all.
That's all. Just keep that in mind. So Jazz and Anurag are fourth, and that gives us skye-blue and Jake as the fifth team, and they are eliminated. Not as sad for me.
It wasn't as sad for me either, I'll be honest. I think that they're cute and I like their
Yeah.
relationship, but they weren't like a team that I've been like 100% like behind throughout the entire season. I loved what they stood for and I loved
Right.
how they worked together as a team, but yeah, I wasn't as like, oh,
Yeah.
like I was with like MJ and Chelsea, who were a stowaway team for crying out loud, who we only knew like for a few
They
legs
won you
shorter than
over.
skye-blue and Jake. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, skye-blue really was there for a reason. And I mean, yes, she can do anything. No one should think that a disability or deformity would stop her or anyone. Like, give everyone the chance to compete. So amazing to see that. And like, I really also did enjoy their sibling relationship. There were some great sibling moments. And Jake just seems like a lovely, supportive brother. I mean, not all brothers are that into their sister, you know? Some brothers are like,
Yeah.
whatever, you. And so I really loved how they loved each other and how they supported each other. But I hated how bad they were at directions. So at this point, I'm like, yeah, you don't deserve to be in the top four if you get lost on every single leg.
Yeah, I think that the four teams that are remaining were probably like the stronger teams out of
Yeah.
this group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nothing against skye-blue and Jake. That's just an
No.
observation from what we've seen as far as like where people have placed consistently, like who's really like outsmarting the race, like who's taking that extra step to like do the directions, to put themselves in a
Mm-hmm.
better position. But yeah, I'm excited about the final four.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, Jake kind of apologizes on the mat and says like the reason they're out is because of him, and I disagree. The reason they're out is because they got lost, and getting lost just puts you in the back of the pack. Like when they actually were doing the challenges, for the most part, they were okay. But if you're always
Right?
showing up a little bit later because you took a couple wrong turns, like that's just you as a team. So I didn't want Jake to take full responsibility there.
Yeah.
That was just my opinion.
Great attitude, great spirit. But I cannot believe after 20 legs, we're finally to our final four.
This is it, you guys. We've got the Gold Coast girls, we've got the Cowboys, and the Sikhs. So only three of that alliance. And then our odd team out, the Geek and Princess, Chris and Alicia, who, even though they seem like underdogs, deliver some top
Time and time again.
performances every single
Yeah.
time.
At this point in the race, like, I would love to see the Gold Coast girls or Chris and Alicia win. Nothing against the Super Sikhs or the Cowboys, but Amanda and Ash and Chris and Alicia have never come in last the entire race and have been so consistent, and they're literally like their race brain is amazing. Like they take those extra steps to really give themselves an advantage. And I would love to see one of those two teams win. Granted, whoever crosses the finish line first deserves it. Like that's the point of a race.
Mm-hmm.
And but those are the two teams that I'm personally rooting for at this point.
I think I agree with you. I think that any of these four, like we already said, this top four is great. So any of these four winning makes sense. They're top teams.
Yeah.
It makes sense. But I think I agree that I am rooting for Ashley and Amanda and Chris and Alicia. Ashley and Amanda probably, I feel like, deserve to win because they've had the most first place finishes and have just killed it this whole time. But it only matters that last one. So whoever does cross that finish line first, that's
Are
it.
we kind of worried granted, I would get the strategy of it. Are we kind of worried that maybe these three teams are going to do whatever they can in their power to make sure Chris and Alicia don't make the final four? That's my only thing that I think could play out next week.
Absolutely. We have 4 episodes left. So this is not like a US Final Four goes to the finale or even a Final 3 goes to, I don't know, because we have 4
You
episodes.
think like next line would be non-elimination? Like if we're thinking about this, well, there's 4. Yeah, maybe it's a non. It could be interesting if it was a non-elimination with the sabotage and salvage.
Mm-hmm.
But then that would defeat the purpose of the final 3. I don't know. 4 episodes. What the heck?
So we have just logistics here, guys. We have 3 episodes coming up this week like normal. So James and I will be back on Thursday to do those next 3 episodes. Then the following Sunday, March 28th, will be the finale. So James and I will come back. We're trying to figure out if it'll be Sunday or Monday, but we'll come back for the finale after that episode. So that's how it's going down on our end. And then, yes, we got those massive eggs coming up in the preview. Oi, oi. And I think they have 3 teams who are working against them. Yeah.
Yeah, I really think that's, I feel like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us live in the chat. We've been enjoying the 20 legs together so far.
What a journey it has been, but what a pleasure every step of the way.
That's right.
Oh my God.
So we will see you guys next Thursday for legs 21, 22, and 23. We'll see you guys then. Bye.
Bye.